Thank you, Madam Chair. Gentlemen, when you read through your report, there's two or three things that come out. One, it's multifaceted, there's lots of interdependencies, and there's lots of things that are completely reliant upon the funding models through the LTP. So the priority selection for what's going to happen and its interdependent orders will be before us when we start looking at the LTPs next week.
Madam Chair, as we go through that process, there will inevitably be a reprioritisation of projects based on the funding models, and yes, clearly that comes back to the appropriate committee for decision.
Sorry, Councillor Cashmore, you got your answer? Okay, excellent. Councillor Wood.
Yeah, I'd ask Rick. Rick, at the moment there's a video circulating with senior council officers saying that, you might have seen it, that he's got the support of the Mayor and he's part of
Councillor
the...
Wood,
Yeah.
I've seen that video and I've seen the social media attached with it.
Well, I'm just
That's being dealt in another venue or another process.
Well, I just want to make sure that...
Some of the social media associated with that is unfortunate, and there may be some action taken. It has been exceedingly unfair to the officer involved, and I don't think that needs to be. I don't think that needs to be raised now.
Well, I just want to make sure. Look, Madam Chair,
we're dealing with that in another.
Well, I just want to know then. Things do seem to be happening at a fast, rate where councillors aren't really aware of how they're kind of happening as they move along. And I can think of the public transport in the lower part of town. Where are we with that at the moment, Rick?
Madam Chair, some of the decisions that will be made with respect to public transport will be dependent on the long-term planning process and on the prioritisation, but Councillor Wood would be aware of the possibility of other modes of transport being available for the city, and in particular in the city centre, and by that I mean light rail. Any timing around that, or in fact any location of such a facility, is yet to be determined and would come back to this committee at the appropriate time, Madam Chair.
Well, Rick, I go along Fanshawe Street in the evenings and still see large numbers of people outside Victoria Park waiting for their buses. No improvements in that location. There was talk of interim bus shelters, more bus shelters being put up. Nothing has happened. We've lost the 17 million that was in the budget to do some work along there, and it seems that it's gone, and you'll probably tell me that it's dependent on the long-term plan having extra funding in for public transport. So where are we with that, getting some interim improvements there?
Well, Madam Chair, that is the answer. It is dependent on the priorities of the long-term plan.
Okay, so this Nelson Hobson Street work, are you putting money into that at the moment?
Madam Chair, that'll be an item within the long-term plan.
So nothing's happening there at the moment?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by nothing happening.
Well, you've got here that you've got a reference to it in this document. By having it in there, what does that mean?
Well, Madam Chair,
is it an active project at the moment?
Madam Chair, there's work underway at this time looking at cycleway priorities, which could be on Nelson Street, and also, Madam Chair, some modelling work, transport modelling work around how those corridors might operate, in particular in the context of the wider city movements with public transport, and in a more direct sense in relation to some of the developments happening around there. So that modelling work is underway.
Okay, well, who makes the decisions as to where the funding is going to be spent at the moment?
Well, Councillor, we do.
We do, okay.
That's our job. So we've got, and you'll see in your schedule, we've got some pretty grunty workshops coming up in the next week or so to look at our transport budget, our transport spend, and they will be done in conjunction with Auckland Transport, where we work out what the basic packages provide, and do we want to put any extra money in there? That's our job.
Well, can I just ask, what's happening in relation to, it says here, stage 1 works between Wellesley and Victoria Streets is targeted in 2017. What's that mean?
Madam Chair, that relates to the work that would be required to accommodate development in that area, in particular the convention centre work, Madam Chair. But again, that's a matter of priorities to be determined through the long-term plan process.
Okay, so everything's on hold at the moment until we get that finalised there. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what we ask the staff to do while we
Well,
decide the budget.
Okay, I want to speak to it when the matter comes up then.
I'm
When-
sure
when
we
the
all will,
motion on the floor.
councillor. Any other speakers? No? I will...
Madam Chair, just process, should we actually put in something, because in the report several times it says we're going to have a workshop
Yep.
towards the end of April, so maybe we just need to put a B to say, we
We
don't want
will-
someone picking it up later and saying, why didn't we have a workshop?
We do. Actually, there's a couple of corrections that are needed. It's the correction around the workshop, and I think this is the one where it talks about the port study being
Yeah.
conducted under the auspices of the Mayor's Office, which is not correct. That's a council report, so we can make those two corrections. Thank you, councillor Webster. So I'll move the recommendation, and we'll just pop the two corrections in. Someone like to second that? Member Taipere? All those in favour, please say aye.
I want to speak to it. Well,
What are you speaking to? Had questions.
are we speaking to it now, are we?
That we receive the report.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay. Councillor Wood?
Well, I just want to say that, you know, it's all very well to have this group that is doing all this work down in the central city, but, you know, there's been changes that have occurred in the city centre, which I do have some concerns about. And one big one is the Victoria Park bus station, which I've been advocating for a considerable amount of time. And there is in the current long-term plan, 2012 to 22. I think it's 15 million. It's a lot of money in there for that bus station. And just by a decree, which I don't think was a council decree, it was an officer decree, that funding has, well, it was put back to 2017. And now I'm told that the funding is not there because it's dependent now on the long-term plan. Now, I think, you know, this council's got to make sure in the future that when we put projects in the long-term plan, we expect them to be delivered. And in the case of this Victoria Park work and Fanshawe Street upgrade, it seems that that's just gone back into Never Never Land. So I just want to raise that with councillors, and I think that, you know, in the future, if we put projects in the long-term plan, that should be the plan that we follow, not some plan that after the plan's put together, officers come along and say, oh no, we're going to change all this, take that money out of there, we'll put that somewhere
Point of
else.
order, Madam Chair.
So
I mean,
I'm
this
just
is a
making-
long-term plan finance budget committee discussion. This is not anything to do with what is in this actual report.
And it's a good point of order, Madam Chair of Finance. I was kind of waiting to see where Councillor Wood was going with this. This is exactly the conversation we need to have as part of the Budget Committee.
Exactly.
We set plans and then we go, hang on a minute, are we going to put the rates up 5%? No, we're not. What are we going to change? Put off or cut? That's the discussion and the instruction we've made at a political level. If we want to add things back in, then we need to move other things out, and we will have that discussion at the Budget Committee. Councillor Wood,
Okay,
feel
well,
free
thank you.
to knock yourself out
I
during
listen to
that.
that, thank you. I just want to go on and say that we were promised an interim upgrade of the Victoria Park bus station. It's a bus station that I think it's about 1,500 people a day use that bus station, and in the winter time people go down there with umbrellas up because there's no coverage, very little coverage, so they stand there and it's a schmozzle when people are trying to get their buses. So I would hope that you know, and this is the only forum I really have to really make my plea, that there is some way forward in the future, because waiting for Never Never Land for it to happen isn't good enough. So I just want to make that point. We're trying to promote buses. I think the North Shore is probably one of the leading areas for people getting on and using buses, and here we have one of the main bus stations and there's no decent facilities for people when they're getting on the buses. So that's the point that I want to make.
Hear that again in
Thank you.
finance, and I'm glad that you are promoting and supporting public transport, and we'll look forward to putting that in the budget. Any other speakers? If not, I'll put the recommendations. I moved. Sorry, we did.
I second.
Yeah. Member Taipere seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried.